Hello and welcome to another edition of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange Investment Challenge. I'm Ropuwa Madzena, and there's a number of global events that are shaping the way that global markets are moving. We'll be right back with those details. Two of the big stories dominating global markets at the moment are fears of a global recession as well as the inflation rates that we are seeing across the world. That is also informing the interest rate hiking cycle that the world's biggest economy, the United States, has embarked on, increasing them quite aggressively to curb the levels of inflation. In the United Kingdom, for example, there are fears, or predictions rather, that it could rise by as much as 18.6%. And the major contributor to that inflation is because of the surging gas prices. No doubt the Russian invasion having an impact on energy prices, not just across Europe, but across the rest of the world as well. I've got with me Piet Serfontein, who is a market analyst and strategist at Unum Capital, joining me to talk about these movements and really the impact that they've had both on local and global markets. Piet, thank you very, very much for your time. Maybe talk us through some of the ones you think are the most important and really just how they've informed the direction in which market participants are moving.
No, thank you for the time. So if I can give a couple of pointers. So the first one, the global economy is increasingly at the risk of sliding in a recession, as you've mentioned. But for me, the word inflation is almost the same as the word recession. Now, consumers are faced with higher inflation, that's the fact. But, such will obviously rein in spending of customers. And, as what we've all noticed with central banks, they are aggressively tightening their monetary policy. It is almost like doing the unthinkable at the wrong time. But now keep in mind that inflation is the overall increase in prices of goods and services. So in short, it is the increase in the cost of living. Now, remember that with inflation, you are normally will get higher interest rates as a measure to tame inflation. Now, interesting enough, I think there's a 45% chance of a US recession in this year and another 50% in the next 2 years. So keep in mind that a recession can be always short and shallow. So we need to see how that's going to unfold.
Right, now there are various sectors on markets that are affected by global events like we've just broken down now. I mean, in the United States, you're seeing there's lower business activity, and then the European Union seeing a lot of issues around manufacturing and really increasing that capacity. Here in South Africa, those inflation rates coming out are showing that it's increased to about 7.8%, showing that there's a lot of pressure on retailers. What would you say are some of the other sectors that are affected by the events that you and I have just unpacked?
Yeah, I think let me just backtrack a little bit. So with the rise in interest rates, obviously the cost of borrowing and that's coming with a reduce in the disposable income, it's making it difficult for the normal guy on the street. People will spend less. Now, high interest rates tend to reduce the inflationary pressures and cause an appreciation in interest in currencies, and that's what we mostly see with our rand against the dollar. Now, changes in interest rates can have obviously an effect on the financial markets, and that's what we've seen throughout. Now, with central banks, their target is obviously to tame the inflation because everybody's just so scared that the economy is going to run into a sluggish setup. So we need to see how this is going to unfold. And I think everybody is waiting for Jerome Powell with his comments at Jackson Hole on, tomorrow night.
No, absolutely. And as you wait for those pronouncements from Jerome Powell, rather, and also just reflecting on the consumers as you just have, apart from the retailers, as you've just mentioned, that there's less disposable income to go around, which other sectors would you be cautious of when trading the stock market?
It's always difficult because on certain times, almost every sector will be in a difficult position.
Mm.
So I would rather want to flip the coin a little bit around and rather say, what will be, perhaps good shares to watch. And if I may, I will suggest there, a growth share is always a good, let's call it, measure to at least to look at in interest rate hiking cycle, because with companies that's growing, it's always giving an indication that there's still some activity. But then on top of that, I also like the consumer staples, the healthcare, and to a lesser degree gold. Gold is a funny story, but coming back to healthcare, people still need to buy medicine and go back to the doctor, so it's a good sector.
Right. And the mining companies, Piet, no doubt that those are benefiting from the global crisis that we are seeing, particularly those trading in commodities that would include your thermal coal because of the energy crisis. Is the mining sector one that's still attractive?
Yeah, I think it's coming back to, let's rather say, commodities, but commodities with a little bit of a caution. Because remember now, the let's call it the sector that's in dispute is the energy sector. So with the northern hemisphere now moving into winter time, we will need to see how the demand will obviously for energy will unfold, and that's coming back now with all the sanctions against Russia and what they obviously did to protect themselves. But coming back to commodities, I think the energy sector is definitely something to have a look at, and obviously we need to see how Brent and gas will unfold.
Mhm. And speaking on the price of Brent crude, because South Africa is a net importer of that, just the outlook for us on our end, we benefit from exporting commodities, but we then suffer from the other components around that, particularly when we face a global recession. So when we look inward and taking into account all of these features that you've just mentioned, what is the likely outlook for South Africa?
Yeah, it's coming back to, I think, the fuel price. That's something that's biting everybody. And it's coming back to what Brent and therefore oil and, the gas prices will do. We did see that, obviously with oil topping at about $130 per barrel, and, that's high prices since 2008, and also the spike in gas prices. It's coming back to what's the imbalance between demand and supply. So yes, higher prices obviously it's bad for us, but also coming back to the currency, a weaker currency is obviously going to be a double bam. Let's call it a negative for us. So yeah, time will tell.
Right. And then, of course, when we are looking ahead to the short to medium term, past the next few days or weeks, I mean, the global markets are very volatile, Piet, and anything could happen at any time. But what are you going to be looking out for as things to note as a market participant, and really just taking your direction as to what you should be doing and how you should be doing it?
Yeah, as I've mentioned, especially in difficult times, is to keep your exposure small to the market. Don't chase the market by, to be over involved in the market. But what I'm also saying by that is be selective, apply your mind. And so, for instance, now you've got a view on the energy and therefore oil and Brent. It's perhaps a good time, a share to watch is Cecil, because, obviously, with their recent results, that wasn't too bad. I think, if I could remember correctly, the increase was about 21% year on year. That was, let's call it solid performance in difficult times.
Thank you very much, Piet. That is the markets discussion, and really just the big events that are shaping global markets as well as our own local market as we navigate the global or the potential of a global recession. The higher inflation rates, you'll remember here in South Africa, currently standing on about 7.8%. No doubt that's going to give the South African Reserve Bank more momentum to increase interest rates. In fact, it's set that they will be be increasing for the next few quarters and perhaps leave them unchanged, and then we're going to see that probably at the end of 2023. Thank you very, very much for your time, Piet. Let's move on to our knowledge section, where we hear from some of the JSE executives with some really great insights on the different components of the stock market and, of course, how to navigate it. Thank you so much for giving us a moment of your time today. Let's maybe start with what exactly it is that you do at the JSE.
Thank you so much for having me today, Rafidwe. So by title, I'm the manager of currency derivatives. What that essentially means is I am responsible for looking after the clients who trade in currency derivatives, as well as ensuring that the exchange provides all the necessary products and services that can help our clients to trade effectively in the markets.
Now, we do know that the JSE developed their own platform in 2007. So tell us exactly what these currency derivatives are that are offered by the stock exchange.
So currency derivatives are essentially contracts that allow you to buy or sell currency at a future date. The beauty of these products is it allows you to choose today at what exchange rate, as well as on which date you get to buy or sell that currency in the future.
And what kind of opportunities does this offer to investors or potential investors who are looking at futures or options as investment options for them?
So it allows them to reduce the risk that they might otherwise face where they don't know what the price is going to be at a future date. I mean, currencies essentially do relate to your exchange rate differentials. And if you want to exchange goods or import goods in a future date, you want to know today exactly how much that will cost you. This would be a means of enabling that. And therefore, you can maximize on your profits as well as reduce the risk of the unknown.
And I suppose it's important to understand that currency derivatives are key to managing a currency, and the risks that you've just mentioned are many in this time and day. I suppose for the last 2 years with the advent of COVID-19 and now the geopolitical events that we're seeing, I mean, how has that impacted on the different platforms or the derivatives that exist on the market?
So the derivatives that exist in the market are obviously highly impacted by any volatility that you see in the exchange rate. The rand does get impacted by various aspects that happen in countries outside of the control of South Africans. For instance, we are highly tied to the activities that happen in the US by virtue of being plugged so deeply into the exchange rate of the dollar. So given the tumultuous times or periods that we've gone through, especially with COVID, we have seen a lot of rand volatility. We saw some rand weakening. So you find that people who had to pause any importing of any goods or services that they had to do, when they were finally able to, they had to pay so much more that they ordinarily would not have had to pay had they received those goods at those times. So getting involved in trading in instruments or products such as your currency derivatives, whether it's futures or options, it would have helped you because at that time you could have locked in a rate that could have been beneficial to you in the future. And if the currency moved in your favor, then you would have been better off because you could have then entered the market at the prevailing rates in the market.
And what are the most popular or the most common derivatives that investors take up between the futures and the options, or are there other varied amount of derivatives that people can consider?
So your futures and options tend to be the standard ones that we've got listed, but over the years, the JSE has expanded their offerings to include contracts that we call any-day contracts. So instead of being confined to your standard quarterly expiry dates, you can come and select a date that you want to trade or have the contract expire on. And this is what we call any-day contracts. We have also expanded to offer trading in what we call can-do contracts. So if it's not a standardized product available on the JSE, we can work with you to ensure that we're able to create a structure that is suitable for what it is you are trying to do at the exchange. You are no longer confined to what we originally used to offer when we first established in 2007, as you mentioned. We have also recently expanded to offer trading in currency pairs for the rest of Africa. So historically, the G10 currencies, which are your dollar, rand, pound, euro, and the most popular globally that are traded, were the predominant ones. And we have realized that, you know what, as the largest exchange in Africa, it only makes sense that we also have an offering of trading in other African currency pairs.
And that's very important. And while it may be beneficial for the investor who chooses to get onto this platform, how does it impact on the JSE? How does it contribute to the particular market that we're talking about here?
Well, it's got a double or two-pronged benefit to the JSE. Firstly, it helps create a more stable market that we can offer to our clients, which also ultimately contributes to the stable or the better functioning of trading in currencies within the South African context. But also, it places us on the global map, where we can show that, yes, we might be smaller than your larger exchanges globally. However, we have the capability, and we're also staying up with the trends and also ensuring that we're able to provide and compete on a global landscape.
So I want to get into what I would require or anyone else would need in terms of a qualification or experience to get in to currency derivatives or to engage with the different platforms. I mean, what did you have to do to join the JSE as part of this particular team?
So economics, I would suggest, is a strong foundation that you would need. And you also have to have an in-depth understanding of your financial markets. To do what I particularly do at the JSE, you also need to have some good communication skills, great interpersonal skills, because relationships are key to a lot of the things that we deliver at the JSE. And also, you need to be tenacious and be analytical in thinking, because you need to have an understanding when things change globally. What is relevant to your client base? What is relevant to your market? And what it is, or what is it that we as the JSE can decide is poignant for us to focus on delivering to ensure that we are not only growing our offerings to the market, but we're helping our clients and their businesses also grow.
Mm-hmm. What would you say to a potential investor who's looking at currency derivatives as an option in the current landscape that you and I spoke about earlier? Is this an option to consider? Are you finding that more people are looking into it? Or are you finding some skepticism just based on the events that are happening both locally and globally?
So I would say currency derivatives are not necessarily a direct investment tool unless you understand how to actively utilize it to the best of its ability. For the most part, it is a hedging instrument that helps you reduce your risk or minimize or maximize your earning potential. To a potential investor looking to maximize on profits utilizing currency derivatives, I would say understand the market that you're going into. Stay abreast with what's happening and ensure that you understand the risks that come with the decision that you're making and the cost to you. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, as we all know. Investments 101. But there is a lot of opportunity to maximize earnings if you utilize it in the way that it is designed to be used in.
Mm-hmm. So just to simplify it, Elaine, basically what we're talking about here in currency derivatives is a form of insurance cover that you would be getting when you are getting or engaging on these platforms. Am I right?
That is absolutely correct. In fact, I couldn't have put it better myself. Currency derivatives or trading in foreign exchange, especially for long-term views, is, as you said, insurance cover. If you're expecting something in the next 3 months, you don't know what the exchange rate risk is, but you can agree on a rate today. If it works in your favor, then you exercise that contract. If the currency in the underlying market has moved in your favor, then you don't need to exercise it. You can go and trade directly in the market. So yes, Rafida, as you said, it is exactly that. It's an insurance tool.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of young people who want to be financially included, who want to engage with the markets, create investment opportunities for any future endeavors that they're looking into. So for those who are interested in the investment challenge and not necessarily 100% convinced about the opportunities that it could unlock for them, what would you advise to someone looking or reading up about the investment challenge and why they should become part of it?
I would say you are never too young to start learning about the financial markets or, in that same vein, getting involved in it. Very many times we hear of these quick, get rich quick schemes in the investment space, and I can tell you from experience, slow and steady wins the race. So start learning young, start participating young, because that little bit of money that you see today is the fortunes that you could then yield in the future.
And all of us want a big fortune for our futures. Elaine, thank you very much for giving us some of your time. We really appreciate it. Very interesting insights are coming through there, and of course it's all about financial inclusion and acquainting yourself with the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, realizing that it's not the scary beast that we see from afar and that you can actually directly engage with it and create an investment opportunity that might fund your future in some or other way. That brings us to those who've been brave enough to engage the JSE Investment Challenge and really challenge themselves to understand the financial or the capital markets better and the investment opportunities that exist within the capital markets. Before we talk to the winners, for now, let's take a look at the winners that we've had before. First winner today, we're speaking to Junior Mahlangu from UNISA, all the way in Pretoria. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, Junior. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Junior Mahlangu?
Oh, thank you, ma'am, for the opportunity. So Junior Mahlangu, I think he's a guy interested in investing in the stock market. So his journey started back in 2019 when he started investing in shares through Easy Equities. And then from that moment on, he has gained exceptional knowledge in the stock market.
But how did it happen that in 2019 you would suddenly decide that you wanted to be a part of the stock market or the trading within the capital markets?
So, ma'am, during the time, I had a friend who was already investing in the stock market. So I thought to myself, this person is not even doing accounting like myself, but is already engaged in the market. So why not I? And then that's when I decided to take a deeper interest. So then I think the first step I took, I enrolled for a short-term course with Udemy, just to learn the basics of the stock market from outside accounting textbook knowledge that I've already obtained. Yeah, from there on, my journey has never been the same.
No, it hasn't indeed. In fact, you're part of the JSE Investment Challenge, one of the winners there, and an aptly named team that you have, Value Creators. Tell us about the team and the different minds that come together to really get you guys the best out of the stock market.
So, ma'am, Value Creators, just to perhaps expand on the name, we chose the name because we are really wanting to create value, which is the overall purpose of investing. And then the team is composed of two members, which is myself and my partner, Ms. Khanyisile Ndlovu, who's also studying at the University of South Africa. So both of us are studying accountancy, And yes, ma'am. So that's how our team is composed.
And how do you guys approach the stock market? And I'm not asking you to give away any of your secrets for any future endeavors that you might have, but how did you guys approach the different investment opportunities and the decisions to land you to the positions that you are in this time around as one of the winning teams?
So, ma'am, as we are already aware, and from the conversation perhaps that we had earlier, the stock market for this year is very fluctuating. So there's a lot of instability in the stock market at the moment. As it has already been mentioned, we are expecting a recession, a global recession, perhaps which can be triggered by the United States. So then what we did from the beginning of the competition, we chose not to trade in the ordinary equities market, but we chose to trade in the JSE derivatives market, whereby we also have an option to short sell some sectors which we believe will not be performing really well. So from the beginning, we have been trading in the futures market, and yes, ma'am. So since the market is unstable, what we usually do, we take long positions, or we long buy sectors which are really performing well, or which we are anticipating are going to perform really well. And for those that we see are going to decline, we take short positions.
Yeah, and that's very interesting for those watching to understand, is that derivatives and futures are almost like an insurance product and will protect you from all the fluctuations and the volatility that we've been seeing. So very smart move given the current times that we are in, Junior. I understand that you have a mentorship program that you run. Tell us about the mentorship program and why it was important for you to introduce others to this particular platform of investment and creating saving opportunities for education or entrepreneurial ventures or anything that you want to do with whatever you would have accumulated through an investment platform.
Okay, ma'am. So just to expand, last year I was studying full time in the Eastern Cape at Rhodes. So then this year I enrolled at the University of South Africa. And then the area which I came to, it's a very rural, you see. So not many learners are exposed to such knowledge about the stock market. So then what I decided to do, since I was already aware of the competition from prior years, I thought perhaps this is the greatest time to introduce the competition to the learners on schools around these areas, so that we can get them to participate in the economic activities of the country, and then also gain significant knowledge when it comes to income generation, which may also be very useful to them in future. So yes, ma'am, the drive was really about introducing the secluded learners to the economic activity of the country.
Yeah,
And hence I started mentoring as well.
yeah, and what kind of programs do you run with them to help them understand those economic components that you spoke about, or the capital markets? What kind of programs, if you give us a sense, that you are running as you mentor these young children from the rural areas, as you say?
Okay, ma'am, thank you. So what I do, it's basically when I go to the schools that I'm mentoring, I show them some of the basics that I use to analyze the stock market. There are websites, for example, Trading Views, where we analyze the daily trends or the daily movements of the markets. So what I did, I introduced them to those platforms, and then they have an opportunity to see how the markets are actually performing. And then from there on, in presenting this competition to them, what's important, it's providing them with the correct strategy of trade. So when I go there, I first teach them on fundamental analysis, like how does fundamental analysis, like the things which are happening in the company at the moment, possible frauds, structural reforms, poor business models. how do they affect the share performance of the company. So we also look at that in a fundamental spectacle, like how do you analyze financial statements also. It's one of the things that we further look at. And then we also, or I also teach on the technical analysis, right? So as we know, the JSE challenge, it's a very short-term competition. It runs for a period of 6 months. So I try to show them what technical analysis can they use to analyze whether is it the correct time to buy a share or not. So I've showed them technical indicators, for example, like how to use the relative strength index to determine whether a stock is overbought or oversold. And then if it's oversold, it would definitely be a no-go area. But if it's overbought, I think if it's oversold, it would be a great opportunity to come in. Yes.
That's very interesting. And then, of course, the age group of these children that you are mentoring, and have you found that they are also growing the appetite to learn more about the stock markets, and not just to wait for your mentorship, but to learn beyond those times that you are with them, read and try and do whatever they can to engage the markets or the JSE? Are you finding that there's an appetite?
Yes, ma'am, definitely there's an appetite. What I've recognized, perhaps not only from the schools that I've been mentoring, but generally over the country, I think even though some of them are not directly involved in trading in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, we find most of these learners interested in trading in foreign exchange, or the forex markets. So definitely there's an increased appetite for trading. And then as well as when we introduce the JSE challenge, it becomes a further driver for them to partake in the markets, since most of them have been aware of the technical indicators usage from their trading in foreign exchange.
Yeah. Because you're studying accountancy, and you just need to kind of clarify this for us, where do you see yourself post your studies? Are you going to be one of the traders at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange? You're going to become the director of currency derivatives, perhaps? What does the future look like for you when it comes to continue your engagement with the Johannesburg Stock Exchange?
Oh, yes, ma'am. So, as already mentioned, I think I'm more interested in hedge funds. So, what I'm thinking, perhaps over the next 3 years or so, after getting sufficient audit exposure, I'm planning to join a hedge fund, or if I can get an opportunity, do my training contract in a fund management environment. Because that's where I envision myself. As our name suggests, I see myself as a value creator. So I'd like to be involved in creating value,
Yeah.
more especially in pension fund companies.
Yeah, you never know. You could be creating
Yes.
value in my pension fund one day, but that is a conversation for another time. Just based on your experience with the
Yes, ma'am.
JSE Investment Challenge, what advice would you give those that are still participating, but also those that are looking at it and having an idea of maybe wanting to participate in the next challenge?
I think the advice I'd give to those is it's never too late to start. The greatest teacher is experience. So don't wait for so long and go study all the theory before you can even start trading in the market. When I joined the stock market initially, I did slight research and I decided to barge in. So most of the information that I've learned, it was a learn as you go process. I didn't try to accumulate all the knowledge and then start trading. So I think what I can give is, of course, practice due diligence, but don't delay yourself. Start as soon as possible so that you can learn as much as possible from the stock market.
Did the value creators make any big losses or any big wins during the trading period?
Oh yes, ma'am. The market has been very, very unstable. I remember there was a time, I think it was probably July, we had a long position in Goldfields, and then the company instituted a policy that was not in favor, or that was not favored by the shareholders. And in a single day, it lost about 20%. So you can imagine, to us, since our capital is geared, we have a greater level of exposure. It was a loss of about 66%, just because of the loss. So we did make quite a great loss. But fortunately, we don't invest in one stock, and for for every situation, we always have sufficient long positions and sufficient short positions. So even if the market goes down and it goes to our disadvantage, but we have put in great techniques to protect our capital and to make sure that we don't lose that much.
Mhm. Now, many analysts, as a final thought from you, Junior, many analysts have said that we have kind of reached the peak of all the major things that are happening. So the peak of inflation and the peak of the major volatility that we've seen. And we might start to see a correction that'll come on and some kind of stability. Are you seeing the same thing? Because I do know, just from our conversation, that you're going to continue engaging the stock markets. But in that engagement, are you going to, or are you starting to see some kind of stability or correction that'll form from the vast volatility that we've seen?
I think at the moment, ma'am, it's difficult to tell, since there is an anticipation of a global recession, which might further have a negative effect on the stock market in our nation. But looking at the performance of the stocks over the past few days, I think uh, we are getting to a period of stability, perhaps. Some of the companies are going back and improving and going back to pre-COVID levels. So at the moment, it's difficult to tell what will happen, because the war with Ukraine is still happening at the moment. So we really don't know what's going to happen. But I anticipate that perhaps we are going to have stability in the markets.
Sooner rather than later, one would hope. Junior Mahlangu of UNISA in Pretoria, part of a two-member team of value creators. Thank you very much for sharing your insights and just teaching us a little bit about how the value creators have created value for themselves through the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. I want to bring in another winner at this point. We've got Darshan Dama, who's from Eden College in Durban. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Maybe if you could start by telling us a little bit more about yourself and why you decided to become part of the JSE Investment Challenge.
So my name is Darshan Dharma. I'm a 15-year-old scholar that attends Eden College, Durban. And growing up, I always aspired to trade, and I would watch the graphs go down and then go up, but I would never want to actually take the risk because I was scared. And one of the most vital roles of being a future entrepreneur is that you have to be a risk taker. So when I attended my first year of business studies in grade 10, my teacher introduced me to the JSE Challenge and told me the pros and cons. And I did not hesitate at all. I was like, yes, sign me in. I want to do this at all costs.
So you literally just kind of put aside the fears and went on with that risk as a future entrepreneur, as you've described yourself. But it's not something that you've been doing alone or that you've accomplished on your own. You do have a team. Tell us a little bit about that team and really just how you guys put your minds together to make sure that you get the most out of your trading experience.
So my team consists of 4 members. And if you had to look at my team, the mindsets is completely different. So coming together at the start was very difficult, and explaining them the pros and cons and the great opportunity that we have on hand. So eventually in the school day we have 2 breaks, and we found out that's not enough time to discuss strategies to decide what stocks to buy and what to sell. So we eventually created a WhatsApp group, and like we used to call each other for hours on end and write scripts and prepare for like disaster. But obviously, it all paid out in the future, and I would I thank my team every day for being one, to, like being together.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean your team has a very interesting name, the Yammer Yammerers. What does that mean, and where did it come from?
So when we first entered business studies, uh, our teacher used this funny term, and then she explained the yama yama is like not controlling your mindset, and like just like sort of ADHD in a way, where you don't care about school and you just come. So we named it that, but we want to give it a different meaning of self determination and self confidence in order to persevere in the future.
It sounds like you have a really solid institution in the form of the school that you go to. So, especially because you say it was one of your teachers that encouraged you one day to just have a look at the JSE Investment Challenge and really what it could do for you. But tell us a little bit about your school and the culture that is within that learning institution.
So the school culture in the school is like widely open and very accepting. It's a co-ed school, which not many like parents would send their children to, and the rules aren't really that tight. But as you can see, like most schools will not allow boys to have like haircuts and stuff. But but the achievements that the school has achieved, it really doesn't matter how your child dresses up or like how they carry themselves out. Like I feel like attending the school for about 3 years now. It showed me that you can be anybody, but self control and determination gets you places. And that's why the school is like one of the best in the country today.
Self-control, the very important thing that you mentioned there. Isn't that something that you need when you are trading on the stock market? A level head and self-control. What strategy do you and your 4 teammates approach, especially in the times that we are in? I'm talking about the global recession, the Russian invasion, COVID-19, higher inflation. There's so many things that are happening. So you always have to remain cool-headed when you are engaging the stock market. So how do you guys do that? And what strategy have you guys employed?
So when we first started like trading on the JSE challenge, we our knowledge wasn't that like we weren't really experienced in trading. So when we kind of got our drive in, we decided to go for like three stocks, such as growing stocks, blue chip, and rapid stocks. So like 33% of our portfolio is blue chip, 33% is growing, and 33% is rapid. So we used to wake up day to day and see the rapid stock is like gone down like 10%, gone up 10%. So like we learned after a while that the market is like really unpredictable at this state. So we decided that we're going to carry out our motive to win, and we all set a goal that we're going to make South Africa a better place one day. Because as current states, if you had to ask a scholar what do you want to do in the future, they're going to tell you I want to go overseas. But you were born in South Africa, so why do you want to go? So I tell myself every single day that I'm going to make this country a better place in the future.
And while doing that, you're obviously teaching yourself and the others around you about the opportunities that could be unlocked from trading platforms like the one we're talking about. When you look at the different sectors, which ones do you know to be the ones that you can't go wrong with, and which ones are you a little bit more cautious about? In our earlier discussions with our market broker, we discussed that healthcare stocks, you never go wrong because everyone's going to need some healthcare at some point. And also retailers, everyone's going to have to eat and drink. So those are the kind of stocks that a lot of people would look to. But in your strategy that you've just described to us, what do you guys look into as the sectors that are potentially the ones that will bring about the best investment returns?
So I feel like the best investment returns was your insurance companies and your like banks. And the worst in like from my experience was your what do you call it? I'm sorry, your your tech companies, such as like like companies that produce technical components and hardware.
That's very interesting because that's kind of the direction that is also taken in the United States. But it's not quite the same in China with the likes of Tencent and Alibaba that have suffered from the Chinese regulations there. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but are you not concerned that government intervention and regulation has an impact on how companies perform within an environment? Like you've just mentioned that tech stocks are more of a safe bet, which is something that you can see globally, but I've just made the example of China where that's not necessarily the case right now. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like tech companies, if they want silence, like in some way, such as like if you look at Elon Musk and his SpaceX and Tesla, the reason why Tesla has such high market evaluation is because it's a data company working on the automation of self-driving cars. And I feel like the government should not intervene because it's like if you look at Elon Musk, it's one man's creativity that's powering the drive of many today. So you should like the government should just allow tech companies to produce what they want to, but should be strict on how they release it
No,
to the
absolutely. A
world.
level of a regulatory environment is absolutely necessary. What is it that you want to do after school, after you matriculate? Are you going to be staying within this industry? Do you see yourself studying towards becoming someone who directly works with the capital markets?
So I still see myself in the future from like what I've learned trading the JSE over the past few months. I would like to like trade on markets, but I would also like to open my own company that like I hope to be registered to the JSE one day.
No, absolutely listed on the JSE and potentially a blue chip, one of the top 40. But I guess we'll see if that
Yeah.
happens or when it happens, rather, right? In the meantime, while you continue to explore your interest in the stock markets, there are those who are watching and who might be interested. And what advice would you give to them in terms of taking the leap of faith or taking that risk, as you mentioned it quite nicely earlier, and just giving it an opportunity and really just see how much they could gain positively from that experience?
So to nowadays society, they just want to like play on their phones, go through social media. But the best advice I can give you is take the risk because if you aspire to be someone in the future, especially someone who aspires to be an entrepreneur, some of the characteristics is having self-confidence, being a risk taker, and being determined. And this JSC challenge opens you up to all those characteristics, such as you're going to be a risk taker to buy a stock and like at a large price, you're going to have self confidence to like stay with it even if it's dropping, and you're going to be determined by logging on every day to watch the market as it grows.
Thank you very much. You've been such an inspiration to many young men and women who really want to expand their minds when it comes to learning about new ways of creating investment opportunities for their own future. That's Darshan Dharma there from Eden College in Durban, joining us about his experience on the investment challenge with the Yama Yamaras. That's the name of the team. 4 members within his team there, and of course they are a winning team and have had, you've just heard from him, a great experience. And like he says, he wants to create a company one day that will not only be listed on the JSE, but potentially be one of the top 40. So those are the great insights that we have had from our winners and of course our JSE executives and our brokers in terms of the volatility globally that we are seeing, and the fact that it shouldn't be a deterrent. It should actually be an encouraging factor for you to dive in and to explore the Johannesburg Stock Exchange and the opportunities that it may be able to create for you. And you might be watching this live and thinking, well, you would like to get involved, and you can certainly register www.jsc.co.za. When you register, you can have some practice rounds and engage with the stock market, get a feel of the equities that are there, the currency derivatives, all the other products that are on offer as well, including ETFs, and then decide what brings back the best investment for you, or really what you understand the best and what you can engage with the best. So that was where we are leaving it for this edition of the JSE Investment Challenge. And of course, we'll continue to bring you more participants, more winners, and more insights. For now, it's goodbye.